on this computer. Okay, we're now recording. All right, so it's good that I have that in because I think otherwise every week I would forget to record. So that's almost just a visual reminder for me to record these lessons. So far we've covered greetings and small talk. We've talked about daily routine in Irish that you might use around the house and different rooms. We've talked about place names and family names. Now, when I say we've talked about place names, we've ever so slightly opened the door. We've creaked the door open and we've peeked through place names. We've looked at some of the more common ones. That's going to be an ongoing feature in these lessons. But we'll talk a wee bit more about that in a second. We looked at some family names last week. So we're going to look a wee bit tonight at the weather. Okay, we're not going to look at seasons and time all in one lesson because it's quite a lot, but tonight we're just going to look at the weather because if you've noticed the weather's been quite changeable this week, so it's a good time to be talking about it. And also what I'm really going to focus on tonight are letter sounds and pronunciation. So I get a lot of questions about you know, why BH sounds different, sometimes MH or GH or DH. We've looked a little bit at pronunciation with dentals and the letters that are affected by certain vowels. And what we're just going to do is look at the next level of that. And the idea being that your pronunciation, you get into good habits early on, so you don't have to unlearn things. There's nothing worse than whenever you have the wrong pronunciation learnt in your head. It's incredibly difficult to unlearn that. So if there's any questions or anything like that, the first thing we're going to do is go back over what we did last week and we'll maybe look at a wee bit of the homework. So I've got some really good homework answers. Don't worry if you didn't get a chance to send it to me. I always get an influx of homeworks on a Monday early evening. It's great to see. With emails going ding ding over blah. Don't worry if you don't get to it. We're going to go through it together and you can see how you got on. So our greetings, I always just put that up. So hopefully you might be thinking that you would know these by now without the English, or without the English. Gaeilge, Jas Maradich, Ismisha, Caoimhe, Kajay Maratatu, how you answer that. So what I want you to do now is just to say out loud. You don't have to say it in front of the group. You can keep yourself on mute. I just want to say how you are. So tá mé sásta, tá mé brona, tá mé nervishach, tá mé sprágtha. That's motivated. So just out loud, I'll give you 30 seconds to maybe say how you're feeling and that'll give me a chance to read the chat. Ryan, what did I miss last week? Ryan, are you on our email list? I will send you, if you email me in the morning when I'm in the office, Ryan, I will send you a link to download last week's lesson. And you can have a look at what you missed then. But we're going to go back over in a minute anyway what we did. Place names, family names, town names, family names, surnames. Oh, everybody's answering for Tame Tershachanish. What's the word for hungry? Okay, Claire. In Irish, there is not necessarily a word for hungry. You say that the hunger is on you. And you would say ta ochris orum. So I'm going to type that into the chat, ta ochris orum, and then I'll also write it out on a piece of paper for the people that aren't looking at the chat. If you just give me 1 second. Okay. So I've taught you some basic emotions like happy, sad, angry, but the next level of that, so when we talk about scaffolded learning, the next level of talking about your emotions is actually how most emotions are on you. For example, hunger is on you, thirst is on you. There's a lot of the things are on you. What was I saying? Ta ochris orum. Ta ochris orum. The hunger is on me. So orum is on me. Ta ochris orum, I am hungry. That's somebody that came to Irish class without having their dinner. Like a bit like myself, I've got fish pie waiting for me downstairs whenever I'm finished. So ta ochris orum. And if you wanted to say thirsty, it's tart, T-A-R-T, tart, Aaron. And that also applies to when you need a pint as well. Tart, Aaron. Okay. Hugh Devlin, is there a good place to find more descriptive focal? Yeah, I'll talk a wee bit more at the end about some places where you can find good resources. There's loads and loads. There's loads of different websites. If anybody else knows any just off the top of their head now, I don't want to spend a lot of time typing them out. Feel free to write them into the chat, but there are quite good online resources. Also, if you're on social media, we can give you a couple of accounts to follow on social media. So is Ochris hunger? Yes. So, for example, the famine would be Antocris war, the great hunger. How do you tell the difference when you say I am and it is on me? That is a very, very long answer. You just begin to learn which ones you use, but usually emotions are on you. But yeah, that's a lesson in itself. For now, you'll just bear with me. You'll begin to pick it up. Okay. Right, I'll keep cracking. If you wanted something else to practice out loud, you could practice saying which room you're in. So tá mé sa, and think about which room you're in. For example, tá mé san uffig. I'm in the office. Tá mé san uffig. Tá mé sa chistín. Tá mé sa siomra si. Tá mé sa siomra folka. I hope nobody's in the siomra folka. Okay. Am I going too quickly? I feel like I'm speaking really fast. I'm okay, or should I slow down? Okay. Okay, so for those that sent the homework in, let me just say the chat popped up there very quickly. How do you spell uffig? O-I-F-I-G. Uffig. And your next challenge when you're down south is to spot that on the green buildings on Uffig and Fuisht. Uffig and Fuisht. The post offices, every town should have one. So that's, well, the next time you're allowed to go down south, look out for Uffig and Fuisht. What is Shamra Fulka? Karen, Shamra Fulka is the bathroom, so I hope nobody's in the bathroom. And Claire, how do you say me too? You say Misha Foster. Misha Foster, me too. M-I-S-E-F-O-S-T-A. Misha Foster, me too. Okay. So for homework, I set you the task of finding out what exactly the translations of these anglicised place names were that we were familiar with. Balnahinch, Dún Fadrig, and Shanhill, Knocknagunny, and Ardara. Now, not only was your homework to work out the English anglicised versions, for example, Balnahinche being Balnahinch, but if possible, I also wanted you to tell me what that translated as. So loads of you got them, but what I want you to do now is, if you're feeling brave enough, stick your hand up if you want to tell me one of them, please. Right, I should have waited until I could actually see everybody's face. Who's going to tell me? There we go. Who's going to, oh, Karen, you tell me who, what Balnahinch is, Little Hull. Don't forget to unmute yourself if you're going to answer a question.
Balnahinch is Balnahinch in County Down,
Yes.
and it means town or townland of the island.
It does indeed, or if a part of land is surrounded by water. Very good. Oh. Sugar, I muted myself there. Who wants to tell me what Dún Fadrig is? Go on ahead. You've got your name as iPad. Take yourself off mute so we all can hear your lovely voice.
Are you talking to me, Kiva? I'm not sure.
There's, I think, a couple of people. Joyce, you go on and then I'll come to the next person for the next one.
Is my name on it? I can't tell.
Joyce, your name is on it, yes.
Oh, I see, okay. No, can you see me okay?
I can see you, yes, Joyce.
All right. I find this little book. Do you see it?
Yes,
it's called,
the Irish place names.
The Meaning of Irish Place Names. Now, it's a bit rubbish, I think. But it's really old now. I was just digging through things and I find, because I was looking for the meaning of these words, and I found this book and I thought, oh, I'll check through it. But it's actually all written in English, both sides, if you know what I mean. The meaning
yes.
of the word. So it's giving me all the wrong meanings, I think, because it said Ballynahinch was townland of the River Meadow.
Yeah. So the hinch can also be river meadow. So if you think of a meadow that and a river kind of runs alongside it, it's almost cut off by water.
Yeah.
So it's similar in that a land surrounded by water. So if you think about not technical language but more geographical descriptions, that's what the Irish place names are all about. It's all about what it looks like geographically, what it's used for, what it feels like. Doesn't have to literally be correct. That's got nothing to do with it. Okay, go on ahead, Joyce.
Is there a website where you actually can look up the Irish name and find the meaning?
Wikipedia is an excellent resource, I have to say. Wikipedia usually are very, very good. Now, Wikipedia itself isn't an Irish organisation, so in the sense that it might not have the tiny little townland that's a sub-townland of another townland of a parish in the hills of Donegal. But they do usually have a pretty comprehensive description. I have to say, Wikipedia as a resource is much more reliable than a lot of them. And I wouldn't use it for any sort of linguistic learning. But if you want the etymology of a townland's name, but Wikipedia is pretty reliable, I have to say, and I usually double check things on Wikipedia when it comes to that type of thing. I'm sure there's other local resources and there'd be people screaming at me going, why are you directing them to Wikipedia when such and such has done all this work? So let me get back to you on that. I'm sure there is more local stuff. But when it comes to easy access, you have your phone sitting there. I usually type in meaning of and then wiki, just W-I-K-I, and that will take you to the wiki entry for that town or for that place. For example, I double checked Ballynahinch on that because it's debated.
Okay.
All
right.
So come here, after all that, Joyce, you have to tell me now, what does Dún Fadric mean?
I can't, because I only got as far.
Okay, can you tell me what the second bit is in Padraig, who it might be related to, what his
well, it's Patrick, obviously.
Exactly, and Dún means fort.
Yes.
But it's just been anglicised to Downpatrick.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
And do you know what? You kick yourself whenever you hear it, but look, it's not your fault. We had these place names taken from us, and that's why we're all here to relearn them. Right, you've very patiently been waiting. I forget your name with the lovely green kitchen.
Rosemary.
Rosemary, of course. Rosemary, my apologies. It's so hard to remember if your name isn't on your iPad. Green kitchen's Rosemary, like the colour rosemary, okay? Now I'm not going to forget.
Yeah, okay. I have looked up a few, and Shankill, the old church.
Shankill is the old church, exactly. And if you think of the big old church at the top of the Shankill Road.
Yeah, Ardara. High Oak.
Yes, so there's a few people didn't know about Dara, and Dara is related to the oak tree, which is also Derry, and if you look in the crest on the Derry jersey, that's an oak leaf.
And then I did one that's quite local from where I live, Ardstraw, and it's Draha, which meant high or important place, and it is because it is it was a bishopric of St. Eugene.
Right.
Of the graveyard and all there, and it's also the base of the O'Neill clan.
Fascinating.
So that's what I was doing. Okay.
That's so good.
Somebody else now.
Come here, you give us a couple of answers and build a bus to the other people. I nearly forgot your round of applause. Rosemary, where do you live, if you don't mind me asking? You don't have to give me your postcode or anything, just general area.
Yeah, I live in Castleberg, and
Right.
it was my son who lives in Belfast that gave me the link, and then he did all the. That's why you had no name for me. He went in under his name and he paid for me.
Right,
And
okay.
because I was trying to learn the Irish at the beginning of the lockdown with Duolingo. And then he sent me this and said they was starting in September if I was interested in doing it.
And come here, aren't we better than Duolingo?
Oh, yes.
Right,
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
pay you for that. I'll pay you that 20 quid for that later on, Rosemary,
No,
okay?
well, because Duolingo was giving you the things and pronunciations, but you had nobody you'd nothing
Exactly.
to gauge against.
Yeah, you have to have feedback. You have to have a wee bit of correction. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, look, well done. They're great answers. And you know what? The Con O'Neill stuff and the O'Neill clan, there is such a rich history of place names.
It's all around this area.
Exactly. And when you start to find out about Castleberg and Castlereagh and Clandyboy, I had no idea that Conswater was called and down by the Hollow and all was named after Con O'Neill's family and all that. So that's a whole other lesson. Anyway, okay. Yeah. The last one I'm going to look at now is Crocknagunny. Can anybody tell me? Yes, Kate. Kate, what's Knocknagunny? Laura, I'll come to you in later, I promise, because your hand shot up there as well. Kate, what is Knocknagunny?
The Hill of the Rabbits.
The Hill of the Rabbits, or for anybody that lives in East Belfast, that's Knocknagunny. Knocknagunny is Hill of the Rabbits. My Shiv. So I'm going to pop you back in this one now, and we'll go on to the next one. Now, you should be able to see 3 other places on the screen there, and these are places that came up in conversation when I was talking with other people. In this last week, and they are Kinloch, which is actually the closest town to where my granny's family are from. My granny's from on the border between Donegal and Leitrim, and Kinloch's about 3 miles outside of, halfway between Bunrang and Ballyshannon. And then my granny lives about 2 miles outside of that in a wee place called Monalech. But anyway, okay. Kinloch comes from Cion, meaning head, C-A-N-N. Cion na Locha. So I'm going to write this up for you. It's there at the top. Cion Locha. And Cion means head. So what do you think that this place, what is the geographical description of where this place is, where this town is? Anybody can shout it out.
Head of the loch.
Yeah, head of the loch. And so it is, if anybody's ever been to Kinloch. It's a wee town right at the edge of a big lake called Loreen. And Loreen's Loreen's the farm, the loch is Loch Melvin, excuse me. Loreen's the wee area beside Kinloch, and it is so, so beautiful. But where the farm that my granny's from is Monalech, and it's just a mispronunciation of Bunalocha. So instead of head of the lake, they're Bunalocha. Now don't answer that one yet, because it's the same as Bundoran. So if you've ever wondered what Bundoran is, we'll look at the Doran in a minute. Does anybody know what Bun is? Silence. Okay, good. That's right. Yes, I don't know who said that because I haven't got all the lovely faces up in front of me. Well done. Yes, Bun is bottom. So Cion na Loch, head of the loch, Mun na Loch, bottom of the lake. That's it. Perfect. So Bundoran. Doran is a extremely anglicized version of the word door. D-O-B-H-A-I-R. And you might recognize it from the other Donegal parish name, Gaeilge. And that is an inlet or a small body of water. And Bundoran, the bottom of a small body of water. And you don't get more of an apt geographical description for Bundoran than that. What do you think of when you think of Bundoran? You think of the waves crashing in on the sea. You think of the sea air hitting you. You think of the current of the wind as it comes round the coast. Well, that's what I do anyway. That and the amusements. But they weren't there when they were naming it. I don't think. That was Brian McAniff's doing. And the third thing that came up was Ballytubber. Now, I don't know, is Kimberly in the chat tonight? Kimberly, are you here? No? Oh, that's it. Kimberly gets detention for missing the chat. So Kimberly and I are in the same camogie team, and we went out for a run the other morning, and when we were talking about the lesson, she was saying that she's from Boston, and she traced her family to Ballytubber in Cork. And I said, oh my God, that's so good for the lesson that we're doing, because Bally, as we know, is town of, and Tubber is well. So like a well that you'd put the bucket down. Not quite spelled like that. T-O-B-A-R, Tubber as well. So Ballytubber, it's so easy, town of the well. And you can understand exactly why a town formed there and why it was called that. You don't need me to explain, but suddenly that opens it up for me. Historically, I imagine people coming to this well where it was obviously had really good spring water. So then the next thing is there was a market stall set up there, and the next thing and now there's a town. And then, well, look, I know I'm a bit of a nerd for it all, but I just think it's fascinating. As soon as you can translate those two words, it opens up the history of the area. It's like a secret code. So I would love if we could share as many place names of around Ireland or anywhere else, even Scots Gaelic, any of your Scottish names, they're always very similar. Like there's loads of kins, K-I-N. So anything in Scotland that's K-I-N, that's the same as our kin, head. So I'd love for us to really interact about these, and even if you don't know what it means, like, oh, what does this mean? We can work them out together. Okay, I know I've spent an awful lot of time going back over stuff, but as I said, the place names is something that we really, we're going to focus a lot on because it really, really helps. So, before we get on to our next new thing, I'm going to very quickly have a look at the chat. Body and a hinge, oh yes, yeah, that's all our great answers. Okay, now can everybody see all my lovely wee pictures? Give me a thumbs up if you can see them. Okay, happy days. So these are to help you with your pronunciation of fadas, the letters with fadas on them, okay? Please, 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 if there's one thing you realize, A and A fada are two different letters. They're counted as physically two different letters in the Irish alphabet, okay? It's the same with O fada, U fada, I fada, and E fada. They are different letters, and they are often words in their own right. For example, E fada, the word A can mean he or him, and the word I fada can mean she or her. We covered last week the fact that O fada, O means from in a family name. Okay, so that is how much significance these words with fada, these letters with fadas are words in their own right. And it's why there's been documentaries and books written about the importance of that wee fada, the wee accent. There's one called In the Name of the Fada, which is my favorite, just for the name, because I love a good pun. So I devised this silly wee pictorial visual memory to help you, and I devised it for P2s, but I started teaching adults it a few years ago, and I always get told that they love it. All right, so if this is the way your memory works, happy days. If not, you can just write them down and laugh at me, I don't mind. So a fada is the sound that you make whenever you're falling in love. Ah, think ah. Now, the problem is Belfast accents, we tend to ignore that fada. So you'll hear us say things like ta, me, go, maith. It should really be ta, ta. So Belfast accents, we mess that up. If you want to do it properly from the beginning, it's ta, ta. But I hold my hands up and I know I say that wrong all the time, and you're allowed to correct me. That's one of the few things you can correct me on, is that I won't say an a fada properly. It's my accent, I'm sorry. I grew up in a West Belfast Gael talk. It's not my fault. So ta, and oh fada is whenever you hear some really good gossip. Oh. You've heard the biz from your friend you haven't spoken to in a few months, and she's like, oh my God, come here till you hear what happened. And you go, oh. That's what an oh fada is. And your you fada is like your wee ghost or a wee Pac-Man ghost that anyone played Pac-Man. And it's ooh. That's your ghost. Ooh, you fada. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, ooh. So think Kije Marata too. So you can practice them in words that you know. Ta, me, saste. And then for the O, you could say someone's name. For example, Kiba O'Connell. Kije Marata too. Okay. I fada. So why did I group I, O, and you together? Shout out for me. Why did I group those three together? Broad.
Long vowels.
Good. So broad all together. And now that's Yahan. Now we're going to move on to Kale. And I fada is like the wee mouse going. For example, she, meaning she, S-H-E, is the same as S-I fada. She. Ta, she, sasta. She is happy. She, she. And if you were really creative, you might be drawing your own wee pictures or whatever thing that might help you remember. I know that this is how my memory works. So when I see these things, I just think of these pictures. And this is my favorite one, the E fada, for anybody that watched Happy Days. It's the Fawns, and the Fawn says, A. Let me hear you go, A. That was just for my own entertainment. There was no academic value to that, sorry. Well, there was. You're practicing your pronunciation. So if you want to practice with me, I'm going to go through them one by one. So a fada is ah.
Ah.
O fada is oh.
Oh.
U fada is ooh.
Ooh.
I fada is e.
E.
And E fada is a.
A.
My Shiv, well done, brilliant. Okay, Bite Size Irish is a good website. Hugh says excellent. Yeah, I think that's a BBC one, is it? Bite Size Irish. Okay. Rebecca, I'm glad you like learning like this. This is how I like to learn too. But I try to keep the lessons kind of as broad as possible to cover different learning types. Tonight's quite focused on pronunciation. So what I want to do now is be a wee bit evil, okay? And what I'm hoping is that you might be able to take your, before actually I move on to the evil challenge, we're going to look at a wee bit more pronunciation, and then I'm going to give you the evil challenge. So it will not seem as evil, so because there's more information about it. Another thing that came up when Kimberly and I were going for a run the other day, and I told her I would cover in the lesson, and then she didn't come very rudely. I'm allowed to slag her off because she's my friend, by the way. I wouldn't do that to anybody else, don't worry. Is that she didn't realise that there's a lot of letters in the English alphabet that aren't in the Irish alphabet, okay? So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, all fine. We do not have J, we do not have K. L, M, N, O, P, we do not have Q. R-S-T-U, and that's it. No V, W, X, Y, or Z. We make all those sounds that are missing with combinations of other letters. And for those that did a sharp intake of breath or rolled their eyes or went, oh, for God's sake, you already know most of them because that's what dentals is, okay? The two different letter sounds. For example, we don't have a J, we have a soft D. So a D that gets followed by an I or an E, which makes a J, J, J sound. We don't have, right, I'll not go through them all, but you get my gist. So common letters that occur together are BH and MH, and M and B are often aspirated. And sometimes they create a V noise, like in Siobhan, and sometimes they create a W, a W noise, as in, well, the word below is whammy, but we'll come to that, okay? So, BH, again, it's going to depend on whether it's followed by Kale, A, O, and U, or whether it's followed by Yahan. Sorry, the other way around. It's going to depend on whether it's A, O, U, or I, and E. So, Kale is I, and E, and Yahan is A, O, and U. I hope I didn't confuse you there. A, O, and U are our broad ones. They're Yahan. I and E are slender. They're Kale. The chat. Stuart, I'll come back to that question at the end, okay? All right, so if you're saying the word babby, B-A-B-A-Y, babby, meaning baby, but you want to say my baby, you have to aspirate it. So the word for my is ma, ma, ma. For example, ma phone, my phone. But after ma, you have to aspirate it. If the letter can be aspirated, who's going to tell me which letters can't be aspirated? Somebody shout it out.
NLR.
NLR, exactly. NLR, New Lodge Road. NL and R can't be aspirated, okay? If it can be aspirated,
The vowels.
this is how we do it. The vowels can't be aspirated either. Well done. So babby becomes mo wabby. Mo wabby. Babby, mo wabby. And the BH is like a w because it's followed by an a. Mo wabby.
Mo
Mo wabby. But if you, for example, were addressing somebody called Bridge, because that word is Kale, it's got the I, the only vowel in it is an I fada. That's a vrage. Do you know what I've realized I've done, guys? I've put the wrong letter at the bottom. Has anybody noticed that? I couldn't have done it worse for you. So see the V and the W. I've got them the other way around. This is so bad because see if it was in a classroom, I could just wipe it off the board and do it the right way, but I don't even know how to fix that. So you'll just have to listen and know that the red letters at the bottom aren't the right ones. So the ones on the left are W and the ones on the right are V. That is going to haunt me till next week's lesson. I'm going to lie awake about that tonight because it's a visual key that's wrong. So if you can, visually wipe that away in your mind and write the correct letter in. So mo wabby, B-H-A, w. But if you were addressing somebody called Bridge, it's a vrage, And the same goes for MH. So for example, if you were talking about your mommy, you would say mo whammy. And that's how you say my mommy, mo whammy. Babby, mo wabby, mommy, mo whammy. That's how we teach that to the kids in school. Repetition. Babby, mo wabby, mommy, mo whammy. Babby, mo wabby, mammy, mo whammy. Okay, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it works. And if you were talking to somebody called Mickey, it's a Vicky, because it's the I in there, I-E, they're Kiel. So breach, average, Mickey, a Vicky. For anybody that's been to Gaeilge before, the big well, yeah, it is a supermarket, but it's a big shop, and everybody calls it Mickey's shop, but in Irish it's Shop a Vicky, because it's the possessive, Shop a Vicky, which is very confusing, because if your boyfriend's learning Irish and he hears Shop a Vicky, he thinks Vicky shop, and he's looking for something that says Vicky, like the V. Anyway, look, I've confused you enough. So here's what I want you to do. I feel super evil now. If you're totally lost, don't worry. It's my fault. What I want you to try and do is work out how to pronounce these words. Okay? Work out how to pronounce these words. So what I've got is 6 in the left-hand column, 6 in the right-hand column. The left-hand column are all Yahan. They're all broad. They're all followed by an A or an O or a U. And the second column are all Keel, slender. They're all followed by an E or an I. You'll also notice the first 4 are vowels with fadas on them. So to be extra evil, you have to think back to our pictures. Okay? Ah, ooh, ooh, E, A. And you have to combine that knowledge with dentals. How do these words change depending on what follows them? How do these letters change? So I'm going to give you the first 2 to explain what I mean. So D-A fada N-A, D-A fada N-A. It's going to be a hard D because it's followed by an A, so we know it's going to be D. Then we've got that A fada. We know that's like ah. So da na, donna, donna, which means bold or naughty. Donna, which I love as a name because it's meant to be like mischievous, but it just reminds me of as in Eurovision, Donna. Donna, Donna. And because we know that D was a hard D, this D is followed by an E. And so we know it's going to be a soft D, like a J, 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 J. And there's our fonts, the E fada, A. So that's going to be J, J, which means God. There's a few different words. It means of God, but it's one way of saying God. So with that information, try and have a guess, if you can, at how you would say the rest of those. If there's one you do not know, just stick a question mark in your mind. Don't worry about it. What I don't want anybody to say them out loud yet. I want everybody to get a chance to just work through them in their mind. And if you get stuck on one, say you can ask me for a clue, like Kiva, what's the first sound of that TE one, or what's the first sound of that BH? I don't mind giving clues. I don't want anybody to sit there and struggle, but I do want you to challenge yourself. And then what you're going to do is called self-correcting, or what's the self-marking. So I'm going to go through them and say them, and then you can see whether it sounds like what you had in your head. And then if anybody's feeling really brave, you can say them out loud if you want. And I encourage the people that didn't get a chance to speak last week, Even if you could say one word, if you're looking at it and you're like, okay, I know how to say that one, at least know that one, then that can be the one that you say out loud. So I'm going to shut up for a few minutes and just let you work away on that. So there's 12 there in total. I would be delighted if you felt like you knew 2 or 3. I'll have a look at the chat. Oh yes, actually, Stuart, you were asking me, your son's name is Corey, and how would it be spelt and said? So it depends on what Corey means. Like if it was just a name that was chosen because it looks good or you like the sound of it, then there isn't necessarily a translation for it because it's going to be what the name means. For example, like when Caris was saying a fortnight ago, like I couldn't tell her what the Irish for it was because Caris in English doesn't mean anything, but in Greek, Caris means grace. Isn't that what it was? So then we worked out that the Irish for grace was Grania. But Grania isn't necessarily the Irish for Caris, if that makes sense. So there's you can work it out if you know the etymology, if you know where the name comes from. For example, my name Caoimhe doesn't have an equivalent Irish name or English name. It's Caoimhe. Caoimhe comes from the word cave, which is a sense of like grace and kindness, and it's like a sense. And then it became a name. So it doesn't have an English name. I'm sorry, I know that is the waffliest answer. However, if you just wanted to put Irish phonetics onto the name Corey, then I would say that. But that's just me making that up off the top of my head. Okay? You could also, look, do you know what? I could give you loads of different ones, but that's my answer for now. Okay. Oh, Jacqueline, you can't see the bottom two. Is that what you're saying? Hang on. Is that better now? No. Oh, I wonder if I enlarge my screen. See, I can't see any of yous now. So somebody will have to take themselves off mute to tell me whether that helps or not.
I can't see it, but I don't know whether anybody else can.
Yes, I can see it now.
So the bottom ones are MOMH and ANMH.
I can see them.
Yeah. Don't worry, if you can't see them, we'll go over them now. So we'll just do 10 more seconds and then we'll move on because I'm worried that we're we're running out of time. Okay, how do I go back to that? 1 second. No. Right, you should have had a good lot of time now. So I'm going to go through them and share screen. You let me know how you got on with them. So the first one we did was Donna and Jay. So I said those out loud, so hopefully you got those ones. Donna and Jay. Next we had Nota, which means note. So you would write a note, Nota. And the KLN one, N-I fata, is Nyin or Nyin. But the important bit is that you get the Nye. So the soft N with the I fata of the wee mouse, Nyin. And that means daughter. So connected to like the Kivid Ni Honal, the unmarried daughter of Nyin. The hard T now of Tus. So our ghost, ooh, Tus. And that is at the beginning or the start of something, Tus. So you say Tus maith agaibh means a good start is half the work. Tus maith agaibh. I know somebody in the chat is already typing, Kiva, how do you spell that? I'll write it at the end. The soft T, Chairma. That was a hard one because it's kind of like the E fata and the A together. So that was a bit of a curveball. But I couldn't think of another word that began with T and then a vowel with a fata. So I'm really sorry and I wanted to stick to the theme of that. But it was Chairma. And that means a term, like a school term. Chairma. Okay, the next one is the hard L, Lou. And that has two meanings. It is the comparative word of small. No, it's not comparative. The next step after comparative, exhaustive, is that it? Which means smallest. So Islu is smallest. And it's also why it's the Irish for County Louth, the smallest county. County Louth is the sound of the E without the fata and I fata the same. No. E without the fata is eh. That's why I get called Kiva a lot, but it's incorrect. My name technically is Kiva. But if I start correcting people on that, I don't have a chance because I'm delighted that they just get the MH bit. Okay. So these were the more difficult ones at the bottom. Banda, which would be a band, like a band that you'd wear in your hair. That becomes Movanda. Banda, Movanda. And Bia, B-I-A, which means food. What I'm teaching my puppy at the minute, that's her trigger word for getting her dinner, Bia. And that becomes Movia.
Kiva.
Yeah.
Is it Mwanda and not
Yeah, I said that wrong. Could you
So,
not see I was staring at my screen going, I
Yeah.
said Vanda, didn't I?
No,
It's
because I was
Mwanda. Do you know what? There must be a psychological block with me because that's the one that I wrote the letter on the wrong side of as well.
So it's what?
Mwanda.
Because
I
I
can't
always
see who
think
said that because I've got the screen on full, but it's good job you're here.
it's Louise. It's because I always think and one vig, one bag, and what so
And
hard.
one veg. Do you know what? That's Louise. I recognise your voice, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Thank you. I can't see your face, Louise, but I recognise your
No,
voice.
I've no makeup on. I didn't want to frighten anybody.
I can't see anyone's faces because I've put the screen on full mode for a wee second. It's nice to know you're here.
Hi, Kiva. It's Mwanda, isn't it?
Mwanda, yeah. My apologies.
And then
So do you know what? Well, you tell me, how do you say Mac then for my son?
Mawak.
That's it, Mawak.
Right, I'm going to go on mute again here, okay?
No bother, girl, Margaret Louise.
No problem.
Mawak is my son. And then this wee one at the bottom, Minic, M-I-N-I-C, that means often. Often. And if something's anvinic, it's very often. Anvinic. So even if you ignore all the stuff about the MH and the VH, because I feel like I didn't make that very clear, and you would be excused if you didn't retain that information as well as the other stuff. That would be your teacher's fault. If you remember the first bit, so like the dentals mixed with your fada, the O and the A. I have gone into Bunrang classes and Bunrang Uchter classes, which is your upper intermediate and your advanced level, and I've gone into those classes and had to correct this type of thing because nobody at the very beginning went, there's simple rules and they stick to them like this, and get to know them and you won't go wrong. Okay, I realise that it's 1 minute past 8, so what I want to do is very quickly give you some vocab around the weather, okay? But before we do that, I want you to now try and find me. So you know the way not last week, but the week before, your homework was to find words that began with those letters followed by vowels. I want you to try and find words that begin with those letters followed by vowels with fadas. Okay? So it might not necessarily be in stuff that we've covered. You might have to go further afield and do a wee bit of research and find them. And if you really wanted to be good girls and boys for me, you could practice how to say them. Or you could post them into the WhatsApp group and we could practice saying them together. And if you're not in the WhatsApp group, email me your mobile number and I can add you in. Let's very quickly. So you're looking for D, N, T, L, and S if you want. And followed by any of the vowels that are fada, and then we'll go through them next week. Don't worry too much about BH and MH because I feel like I didn't explain that very well, so we'll come back to that at a later date whenever I've learned it properly. That was a joke, I do know it, I promise. It just obviously happened. A break. There's a word for that, but it's not very polite, so I'll not share it. Okay. What does movia? Oh, movia is my food. Lena is line. Sorry, did I miss that one? So can we just browse the dictionary? Sharon, that would be amazing. If I thought that somebody was picking up a folklore, the Irish dictionary, I've actually got my laptop sitting on one. Look, I'll show you now. If you were going through that and finding all the words from that, that would be the type of thing that would get you a gold star in my class. So yes, you can absolutely browse the dictionary, Sharon, but please have a go at saying the things. I can't think of anything better than the dictionary. That's brilliant. Okay. Very quickly, look, if you need to go on, you need to go on. I realise it's 3 minutes past 8. So if you need to go, that's fine. The last thing that we're going to do is just look at this bit of vocabulary for the weather, okay? And we'll put it on full screen here. So, and I'm sure is how you say the weather, and I'm sure. And I've covered this in my classes before, so if you've been part of the lockdown classes or you were in my Bunrang last year, then you'll have done this with me, but it does no harm, especially because we've had all of the weather that you see here except for snow in one day. So there's a really simple sentence structure of how to describe the weather, and it's ta, and I'm sure, blank, ta, and I'm sure the weather is, then you put in what the weather is and end it with inu, and inu means today. Ta, and I'm sure greenwer inu, and that is saying it's sunny. Greenwer. Tá an aimsir grainmhar inniu. Tá an aimsir stormiúil. Stormiúil inniu. Stormiúil. Stormy. Tá an aimsir stormiúil inniu. Tá an aimsir scamalach. Scamalach. Clyde. Tá an aimsir scamalach inniu. Agus tá an aimsir gífer. Gífer. Windy. Gífer. So that's something that you can practice every single morning when you wake up and you open your lovely eyes and you open the curtains to greet the day, and you can say tá an aimsir grainmhar scamalach stormiúil gífer inniu. It's probably going to be all those things. Or you can just describe it very simply with these 4 terms on the side. So our T there is followed by E, but it's not fada, so we know it's just eh. And it's a soft T because it's followed by keel, so it's che, che. And that's hot. Tá an aimsir che inniu. Tá an aimsir che inniu. The weather is hot today. Fuair. Fuair. Tá an aimsir fuair inniu. Cold. Fuair. And if you want to say I am cold, how would you say that? So instead of saying I am happy, I am hungry, how would you, or no, I am happy, I am sad, how would you use fuair? Somebody jump on.
Tá fuair orm.
Not quite. The cold isn't on you, you're just saying I am cold.
Tá mé fear.
Tá mé fuair, that's it, my who. I haven't got your faces up, but my who, do you ever said that? Tá mé fuair. If you said tá fuair orm, do you know what? It's right. It is right because you're saying the cold is on you, and it's a proper way of describing how you're feeling, but it's not the common way. Would be tá mé fuair. But if somebody said tá fuair orm, if a child said to me tá fuair orm, I'd be like, yeah, tá fuair. You do have the cold on you. Okay. This one is fun to say. Fioch. 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 That CH is like you've got a fly stuck in your throat. We're going to cover some more letter combinations next week, and CH is one of them. As long as you don't pronounce it like a hard C, I'd rather you pronounce it like, almost like a H than a hard C. Fioch. And that means wet. Tá an aimsir fioch inniu. And in Clonjarnach, the last one, tá an aimsir chirrim. Chirrim. So we know that's a soft T because it's followed by an I. It's not an I fada, so it's eh. Chirrim. Chirrim. Dry. Tá an aimsir chirrim inniu. So your homework is to at least twice between now and next week, I want you to describe the weather. So whether that's writing it to me in an email, writing it into the WhatsApp group, or saying it out loud, I'll trust you to say it out loud in the morning as long as you don't wake up the person that's sleeping beside you and make them grumpy for the day. The other 2, you'll need one of them for sure. One of the thousands of ways to say that it's raining is tá sé ag cur farthaoine. Farthaoine. Tá sé ag cur farthaoine. Now the farthaoine is the precipitation. It rains so much, there's so many ways to say that it rains. It's just become shortened over the centuries. The tá sé ag cur means it's raining. It's putting. The word for snow is sneachta. 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 And to say it's snowing is tá sé ag cur sneachta. Tá sé ag cur sneachta. So, before I let you go, I'll bring you back up in front of me so I can see you properly. feel free to take yourselves off mute because that's the end of the lesson. I know I kept us a wee bit late there, but we were late starting, so that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. My lessons are perfectly timed to 59 minutes. So like, I know we didn't have a whole lot of time for questions at the end, but I stopped throughout 4 questions, so there's not a whole lot there. Oh no, there is. There's 5, of course. So let me just have a quick look at the chat. Before I actually look at the chat, I want to talk to you more about these free books. I'm in the office all day tomorrow and all day Wednesday. There is bar Tuesdays and Wednesdays, there is always somebody in the Turas library. Excuse me. It's because I've run out of water, no other reason, I promise. There's always somebody in the Turas library between 10 and 2 every day. Monday to Friday, between 10 and 2, there is somebody in the Turas library. And that's to facilitate the limited number of learners that may want to borrow books. That separate system that we're getting going at the minute. If you want to come in and collect a free bundle of books, call in anytime between 10 and 2, or on a Wednesday or a Tuesday. I am there all day, and I can also give you the bundle of books. The issue is that we can't just leave them in reception for people to collect because that's not COVID compliant. We can't guarantee you that somebody won't come along and do something to those books before you get there, nor can we make somebody sit and watch those books until you get there. So it's just, we have them sitting on a table, they're disinfected, nobody else touches them except for the learner. You come in, you touch, you take your pile, you leave, and that's the only contact, okay? So hopefully, I know a lot of people have had questions about that. I wish I could send them out to you. We, even though if you've offered to pay the postage, it's really, really kind, we do not have the manpower to physically allocate somebody to be in charge to go and put them all in packages and go to the post. I wish we did, we don't. Maybe if we get a wee bit more funding, we'll hire that person. Or if you know any rich millionaires in America that want to support Irish language organisations, tell them to write us a check.
So
okay.
If they're coming during the day when you're there, Caoimhe, is it still the library they go to?
Yes, the library and the offices are all in one
Right.
kind of thing. Now the offices, the library, and there's library staff, and it's volunteers that run that every day. So if you go in between 10 and 2, they're in the library. But it's the office is where the books are, but it'll be open too. So they're volunteers, so you have to be very, very nice to those volunteers, whereas I'm paid to be there, so you don't have to be so nice to me.
It'd be probably just before 5 o'clock. So, and is that on the ground floor or?
We are right up the top on the 2nd floor. The Turas offices, we're at the top on the 2nd floor. If you email me even that day, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I know that we don't get back to emails every single day. It's because I work part-time, and I also work part-time for another organisation, as does Laurel. So I know you'll give us a couple of days grace if you email them a Thursday or a Friday, because we're just simply not in the office, but we usually have a look at them on Monday when we get in. Plus everything's a lot more online these days, so there's a lot more to get through, but we're getting there. Okay, let me see these. Yes, Stuart and a few people were saying that they were trying to email me for the books and it didn't work. My email address is caoimhe.o''Connell, and I'll post it again, but the way that it is laid out, it creates a link for the second half only. So if you click that, that's not my email address. The link that it clicks is not my email address. You have to make sure it's the full one. So I'm going to type it into the chat now to make sure, but it's caoimhe.o''Connell. I did not pick that email address. Okay, it's an assigned one. caoimhe.o''Connell@ebm.org.uk. For some reason, it creates a link out of the second half on social media and in WhatsApps and stuff. So when you click it, it tries to email O'Connell@ebm.org. It doesn't recognize the Caoimhe bit, but here I'm used to that my whole life. Couldn't see raining or snowing. Okay, yeah. So how to say it's raining? Ta she ter Caoimhe. Oh, it's harder to type under pressure. And how to say it's snowing? Ta she ter Sneachta. Flan, see you next week, Karen. What did I miss anything there? Stuart's going to come for books tomorrow morning. I'll see you then. Bring cappuccino. I'm only joking. You don't have to bring cappuccino. I'm only messing. Right, Laurel's away. Hawaii, Laurel. And Farhina is rain, Claire, for asking. Ta and I'm sure go down at Anish, my house. Okay. Right, 8:15. That was a long one tonight, guys. So my house. Any questions, please send them to me in the WhatsApp group. Let's get that one going as lively as possible. Don't be afraid to record yourself and send wee clips like Maji Mai, Ta, Shay, Greenware, Ta, and I'm sure Greenware and you. All right, guys. I'm going to go and get my dinner. Ta, Ogris, Oram. Hawaii, Slang the Foil, Slan.
Caoimhe.
Caoimhe.
Na habre, my chev, Slang the Foil.